our session on Google Hangouts and Google+. It is our hope that you are able to walk away from this session today with a little bit more knowledge on Google+, Google Hangouts. Anybody else using Google+ or Hangouts? You are? How are you using it? Okay, very good. So a couple of people have participated. Anybody participated in a Google Hangout? You have as well? Well, actually, everybody that didn't raise your hand, you're all participating in a Google Hangout right now because this is actually being broadcast live across the globe, essentially. So this is a Google Hangout about a Google Hangout. So we have remote audience. We did a little bit of marketing to get some folks to attend. So not only do we have an audience here, which is different. Usually when we're doing a Google Hangout, we're only talking to the camera. So I'm talking to the camera that's on that chair right there, as well as talking to you guys. So the other thing we have is, just as Apinat is driving this session, he's going to be right. So we'll talk about some of them, and those are some of the best practices that we'll learn. And then when I go next week, I'll talk about how we lost Wi-Fi in this session. So it's kind of a cool thing, something that we're trying out, and hopefully you guys will kind of get a lot out of that. So in the audience, just as you guys, if you have questions, you're going to have to do it the old-fashioned way and raise your hand. Our remote audience, all they have to do is in the upper right-hand corner of the Hangout, there's a Q&A button. So if they click on that, they can type in their questions, and we'll address those as well throughout. So anybody have anything before I kind of roll through this? but Google Plus really started, and their whole goal was their Google. They wanted to go up against Mark Zuckerberg. They wanted to be the next Facebook. So they put a lot of resources, and Google Plus really started as the social component to Google. Google was going to start their Facebook. So this is actually this is our Envisage site. Can you show our international student site? So they really started it with that in mind. They wanted to go head to head. Well, it's morphed. They claim to have somewhere between 300 million to 540 million active users. Well, that's 300 to 540. It's Google. They should be able to get better accounting than that, right? Well, the difference is they have that many people that are using their email. They have YouTube now. Tons of people are using YouTube. And so what they've done is they've really integrated their services together. So they started kind of backing off. We're not going to go head to head with Facebook. We're not going to be the next big social media platform, but they're still a big social media platform, but that's what they've done, is that's just one component to it. So it's really a lot more than just the social component. So when you're looking at Google Plus as a social platform, that's just one part of it. But what they've done is they've integrated it in. As an example, as soon as this ends, I don't have to do anything. It's going straight up on YouTube. So now it's going to be searchable via a Google search, right? If you type in Nafsa Hangout, this is going to come up, or maybe it's one of the other sessions that we gave yesterday in Albany, New York, or in Jackson, Mississippi, back on Monday. So it'll be searchable. So they've combined that. So it's now pushed onto YouTube. It's also on the calendar. So I got a Google event reminder that my Hangout session was just about to start automatically. I didn't put it on my calendar. It put it on my calendar for me because it's Google. So they really are integrating in. But let's talk about Google Plus just as the social element for a minute and what they've done with it. So very, very similar. And this is our international student. This is one of our brands, kind of our flagship kind of web properties. And I say kind of web properties because this is International Students Google Plus page. We have an International Student Facebook page. We have International Student on Twitter. We have internationalstudent.com. But this is our presence on Google Plus. And it's very similar to where, you can see on. So what we try to do as a company is a way to create good, relevant, and compelling content that students, or in this case, maybe it's educators, are going to view, find important. If they like it, then they can +1 it, which is the same as liking it on Facebook, and they can share it. So as a company, we're always looking for ways to create good, compelling, and relevant content to share. And so that's what we do through Facebook, through Twitter, through some of our other channels like email marketing, but also on here. So as an example, we put out on our corporate website, we pushed out through Google Plus that we were doing this session and how you could sign up remotely if you're not part of the audience. And for those that just joined, this is a live Google Hangout, so it's not just you guys in the audience. We also have a camera up here and we're broadcasting this remotely.
And I'll show that again. This is what people who are logged on remotely are seeing right now.
Exactly. So you can like things or +1 them. You can share the content. And so those are just some of the different things that you can do, just like you would on Facebook. But what I think that Google Plus, at least from on this part, has done really well is they've really been able to allow you to sort of segregate your user list or create what they call circles. So I know on Facebook, it's not real intuitive and it's not real easy to say, I don't want these certain people in my group to get this post. You have to go through your settings. You have to set it up. With the circles, and can you show the circles on here? With the circles, it gives you the ability to create circles for just about anything you want. So me personally, I have a friend circle. I have a colleague circle. I have folks that I work with. When you're looking at personal is there. Our team, and some of those folks are logged on. I don't know And so there were 337 folks that joined our live event with them. So choosing a major, that was another hangout we did. So students were interested in choosing a major. So we can now push things out like, have you thought about majoring in communications? And if so, check out SUNY Brockport or the State University of New York up in Brockport or whatever that messaging might be. So this is what I think Google has really nailed, is the ability to communicate with certain circles. So as an example, on our corporate page, which is where we're running this live hangout, I'll be able to create a circle for anybody who joined the hangout that's remote, that's on the other side of that camera. So that's one of and then we'll kind of dig into the Hangouts. But before we do that, does anybody have questions about anything that I've said? Yes. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. But you know, like I said, it's different than Facebook. I mean, there's certain things that you want to push out there, but maybe you don't want your boss to see, right? And so you want to exclude certain people or include certain people, things along those lines, as opposed to pushing out your political beliefs to everybody or whatever it might be. So from a personal use, this gives you that way. But from kind of an admissions perspective or from an educator perspective, you can set up different circles for the way different people have interacted with you. So as an example, you might host a Google Hangout that is specifically for students that you're trying to attract. So you're trying to get them into the funnel. So you're trying to go get them to become an inquiry, but they haven't filled out an application. So that's one circle that you have. Maybe you've got some that have filled out applications, but they have not enrolled yet. That's another circle. So you can message them in different ways. Or maybe they've enrolled and the school's starting in 30 days. So you host a Google Hangout and you can promote it to that circle. Or you just, here's your 30-day checklist on what you need to make sure. You got to get your insurance, you got to get this, you have to make sure you have this documents, this is what you need to bring. The different ways to communicate with different students at different times within the funnel. Or maybe it's just a Google Hangout on the campus. So I'm going to have Appanat show you how to set one up, and then we'll go a little bit deeper into what a Hangout is. They need a Gmail account, yes. So the way I look at this is you don't want to go 100% Google Plus or Google Hangouts. You're going to have a Facebook audience. You're going to have a Google Plus audience. There's going to be some overlap in between those circles. You're going to not be able to talk to anybody with this in China, right? You're not going to be able to talk to anybody with this in Vietnam. Those are the two countries that it's a block. So you need other ways. So you're not getting rid of, this isn't getting rid of Skype. This isn't getting rid of any of the other things, but it's another tool to reach a different audience, and a tool that's really cool, and it's free. It's a Hangout is like a WebEx or a GoToMeeting or a multiple person Skype, but more interactive. Yes. More common to have an email account as opposed to other accounts. So for instance, Yahoo has more common. Right. So the question, I'm just telling the remote audience, the question was, do we have any stats on where Google is more prevalent than, say, a Google email address than, say, a Yahoo or something along those lines? I don't have those off of the top of my head. Just like you said, I'd have to look that up. We reach a pretty large audience. So as an example, if we do an email inviting folks back, we get folks from all across the globe with the exception. And I have some stats on that. I was talking about a case study that we did with Mississippi State and some of the countries that attended the event. I think there was a question. Okay, perfect.
So in terms of email for our business, not related to Google Plus in particular, we do collect students' information if they choose to give it to us, saying that, hey, we're interested in studying in the US, please give me more information via email. The top 3 email services that from all over the world, obviously, Yahoo, Gmail, and Hotmail. So I believe Yahoo is number 2 right now in terms of how big it is, at least for us. Hotmail.
Right.
And that's now Outlook outlook.com, but most people create the email account before it's changed to outlook.com.
And like many, I have a corporate Gmail account. I have my own personal, and I also have a Yahoo account, as well as many other folks do too. And the other thing I forgot to mention, that now that Apanand is talking about email, is he drives the email marketing in addition to his insurance duties across our whole company. We send roughly a couple million emails, 1.5 million emails a month for the company. I'll let Apanand talk about how to set a Hangout up, and we'll kind of dig in on really what they are and the usefulness of them.
Okay, so as Don already mentioned, Google Plus and Google Hangout is great because most people have a Gmail account already, so it's widely adopted. And it's free as well, so you can create a click on that. We don't have the fastest internet here in the hotel. And then you can start a Hangout on air. And there's two types that you can do. You can do one that starts right now, or you can schedule one to start later on, which is what we did for this particular session. We created a Hangout to start half an hour ago, but we created it over 2 weeks ago, so that people who are interested in RSVP and put it on their calendar get an automatic reminder, email, and calendar pop up when the Hangout is scheduled to start, so they don't forget to join online. And then you can give it a name. Obviously, this is going to be public. X University, you're invited to our campus fair, something like that, for example. And then you can add more description later on. In terms of audience, you can make it public, so obviously anyone can join. And if you have a particular circle set up already, so for example, if you have students that are already on campus and you want to just have a Hangout just for those active student, then you can have a separate Hangout that are geared toward all the target audience that you want. So it's great that way. And there you just type in, I can invite Don, for example. If he was not here, you can invite a particular person or a particular circle to join the Hangout. And once you've done that, you just do share, but I'm not going to do it because then that will create a real event. So I'll just cancel out of that now.
Right. And there's two different types of Hangouts. There's a regular Hangout, which is up to 10 people. So it's a great way. I don't know how many people travel overseas and are recruiting overseas. It's a great way almost for kind of office communications like you would on a Skype. Again, it's a free platform. And then there's the on-air, which is really unlimited people. We've had probably the most we've had on a Hangout is about 350 or so, maybe a little bit more than that. And the cool thing is they can interact with you. They can ask the questions. They can do all those types of things. So that's what this is a Hangout on air. And that's the vast majority, since our audience is very large. We reach, as a company, about 6 million international students. So we need that large audience and a lot of people to be able to join. Just because we reach 6 million, a bunch of those are in China, a bunch of those are, in Vietnam. So that's not our whole universe is not going to come to one of these. So it's still that specialized, sort of targeted type of audience as well. Anybody have questions? Yes. That's I think if you're doing more of a private Hangout, if you're not making it public, then I don't believe it uploads, but I'd have to double check that. The regular Hangouts do not, but the on-air, right. That's my understanding, but I'd have to double check that. So any other questions?
So the smaller one, you said it was 10 people. Is everybody on camera, or just one person on camera?
No, so it's just like for this one, it's just me on camera. I'll show you an example of one that we did with Mississippi State, where we started in Neptune Beach in our studio. So let me back up a little bit. What we've done in our office is the first thing that happened is they kicked me out of my office, which made me real nervous. And then they turned it into a studio. Unfortunately, they gave me another office. So we have a small studio. It's pretty small, and we put some lights in it. We've got a like a whiteboard that flips over and it's a chalkboard, and it's got a camera in there and the microphones and things like that. And so we turned it into a studio. So we started in our studio, and I'll show you this in a minute. And then we tossed it to Mississippi State, and they were in their offices. So you can have multiple presenters on them. Typically, when we do one, we drive it just as Apinat is driving it. It would be hard for me to stop and switch and either show me. He's controlling what the people behind the camera are seeing. So it's best to have a couple of people doing that. But you can have multiple presenters with multiple cameras and those types of things as well. Any other questions? So let's, Apinat, let's show some of the ways that we have used Hangouts, just kind of company-wide, and then we'll go in and talk about what we did with Mississippi State.
Sure. So we have different types of Hangouts as well that are live or recorded. And a lot of them are resource for international students. So here, examples of past Hangouts that we have done. On human nature, and God's going to go over the Hangout. And what's great about it is that not only upload onto not only that the Hangout get automatically upload to YouTube, you can also save those videos and put it on your own website as well. And this is what we did. And that can be incorporated into your other types of content, whether it's your blog, you can even post it on Facebook. So it doesn't necessarily have to live only on Google+. The video exists. You can post it anywhere you want, Facebook, Twitter. So you can really integrate it all together. On the website, so if your school, you can have, if it's related to student orientation, new arrival, you can have a page that have all the documents, your PDF, your text that you had previously, and then you can add videos because I think most students now, today, prefer to watch a video rather than to read something. So it's just another way of getting your message across to whoever you need it to in multiple locations, whether that's your website, email it, post it on Facebook, etc.
So actually click on the secrets to getting your F1 visa approved. So kind of furthering that point, so what we've done is we've attempted to create good quality relevant content that students are going to view and get some value out of. And if they do, we're hoping that they'll share it amongst their friends. Maybe they've got another student that's going to travel with them. So here's information about getting your F1 visa and secrets. But the other thing that we've done is we've put a description of it. So anywhere that we post this, we're putting descriptions of what it is. So if it's on YouTube, we're putting descriptions of exactly what it is. We're putting links back to our site as well. So giving them some place to go, because you control what goes on to YouTube, at least from the descriptions and things like that. And if you scroll down, we've tried to get all audiences. Some prefer to watch the video. Maybe it's because I'm a little bit older. I just like to read it, and it's because I can skim through in 20 seconds and pick out the pieces. But we put a transcript in there. We put a picture of the actual board that we use. I talked about the chalkboard that's in our studio and the transcript of it. So they can consume the content in the way that they are accustomed to consuming it. And so just as if you looked at this on YouTube, you see a smaller clip of the information, but there'd be a link back to this page where they could consume it how they want to consume it as well. So that's just some of the things we do. So did you have anything to add? Any questions on some of the things we've done? So we've done these for how to finance your international student education. Since we have a division that's insurance, when's the right time to get your insurance? And we have a whole series of these. We've really made this an integral part of what we do, because the cool thing about Google Plus and the Hangouts is Google Plus not only has given you a way to deliver the content, they've given us a tool to create it. So we can create the content on Google Plus or using a Hangout, but we can distribute it any way we want. So we don't just distribute it on Google Plus, we'll send it out via Facebook, we'll send it out via Twitter, we'll put it on our website. Yep, this is our YouTube channel. So here's all of our Hangouts. And with the description, if it's upcoming, you can set the reminder, those types of things. So they've really integrated, and we try to integrate what they've done really well. Any other questions? Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. With the presenter, right, through the text, exactly. And we'll show you. They'll see the questions that are coming through. They can see the page where it's set up. So that's kind of a good segue, and this will probably answer your question as we talk about Mississippi State and what we did with them. So we are partners. Mississippi State is a featured school partner of ours, and if you'll pull up just their featured school page. And what that means, they're a paying client of ours on international student. So we built out a profile for them. But when we were thinking about Hangouts, we were trying to think about, okay, we use them a lot kind of within our office and just talk to our audience, but what about getting a school involved? And what about doing a Hangout with the school with the sole purpose of really kind of reaching international students that we know are interested in studying in the US, but might or might not have heard of Mississippi State, and to get them to a point where they say, you know what, maybe Mississippi State is a fit, and I'd like to learn a little bit more about them. So what we did you show the...
This is the Hangout page.
Yep. So what we talked with Karen, who you see there in the video, we talked with her, we said, how about doing a Hangout with us? Let's try this out, and then we'll go down to Jackson, Mississippi, which we did on Monday, and we'll present about it. And then we'll be able to have a nice case study to talk with other folks about. So she said, that's great, but I'm busy. I don't have time to market this. I don't have time to do a lot of this. So we said, well, we'll do that. So what we did a couple weeks before is we got a really inexpensive Chromebook. They're like $250. We got one of these cameras like what you see. We got microphones. Actually, we sent her a big Elvis-looking microphone that sits on a tabletop. And we got her an earpiece, and we sent that to her, and we did some tests. So we set it up. We did some fake Google Hangouts, just as we did right before this session, where we set up a fake one to test lighting, to test all those things. So we did some testing, make sure the equipment worked. And so we knew that everything worked. We had a date set. So this is the actual Google Plus page that we set up for the Hangout. So this is like when you saw Apanat schedule a Hangout, this was a scheduled Hangout. So we put a banner on it, and so we now had a place that we could market it. So it's done. So we actually had a different logo in there, like a different screen, because it was before it was done. But if you scroll down, you can see some of the engagement that has happened. These are all folks, if you look on the kind of left-hand side of that screen, these are all people that said, I want to attend the session, would love to attend this session. Do you offer scholarships? Obviously, everybody in here works with international students, so you know scholarships is big. Mississippi State offers scholarships. They don't care if you're from Mississippi or if you're from China. They'll offer you a scholarship. You have the same chance, provided you meet their requirements. So they talked about that. So here's viewers, 290 watched. There were 46 that said they might join. So lots of interaction. And some of these, there's October 10th. I want a master's from your university. Can you please guide me to apply for admissions from Nepal? So, these are people that are still engaging with it. So a couple of days before the event, we started, when I say we, Envisage International, we started marketing. So Apinatsi drives our email. We sent out an email blast to a select number of people. What we were hoping was there would be about 300 people that would attend the event, which we got very close, as you can see. So we did an email about 3 days saying, hey, go to the page and you can RSVP for it. Or if you don't want to RSVP and you want to just learn more, you can go to their profile on internationalstudent.com. And if you look, we'll show you the profile real quick. So 2 different places. So this is on International Student. This is the home that we've given them as their featured profile. And then if you're interested in more information, if you fill this out, that's sent right over to Karen Lee in real time, and then she can follow up with you. So that was one of the things that we did. And then we started our social media campaign. So we sent it out via Facebook, we sent it out via Twitter, and those types of things. We had a banner running on our site to promote people and get them to join and tell them about it. So that was about 3 days before, maybe 2 days before. And then we started, we're now at the day of the event. I believe it was September 23rd. So just about a month ago when we did this. We sent an email reminder saying in 1 hour, the Hangout is starting. We did some more social media push. And then if they had gone to the Mississippi State Google Plus page and said that they were attending, then they would get a reminder that was automatically put on their calendar. Hey, in 15 minutes, the event you signed up for is starting. So again, the hope was to get students that might or might not have considered Mississippi State that wanted to learn more. So the job of Karen was to put together a presentation that was relevant to what the audience wanted to hear. So she really had to, and I presented with her, so I'm kind of giving her presentation from Jackson. History, I think she even started and said, what is Mississippi? Well, it's a river, right? But it's some other stuff too, right? So, and who, Elvis Presley is from there. Well, do all international students know who Elvis Presley is? We all do. Maybe, maybe not. We had an exchange student when I was back in high school. He had never heard of the Fonz, and that just was odd to me. But it's so kind of, she had to figure out who her audience was and get that message across to them. So let's do this. Can we show the video clip? The Hangout was about 50 some odd minutes. So we boiled it down to about 5 or 6. And I wanted to just show you kind of how we started it in our studio, how we tossed it to them, and then how they really laser focused this on international students. This wasn't their domestic recruiting. This was specifically for international students. You're going to need to mic that too, remember? Oh yeah, pull that. It, and they're talking about the advantages to studying in Mississippi, like I had kind of told you before as well. So this was what they did, and then so I won't show you the whole thing since it's not working as far as the volume goes, but they were able to show 3 different photos of international events that they had. They had one big festival. They had another where it was there was three different international events. I can't remember off the top of my head exactly which ones they were. But then they were also able to go in at the very end and specifically answer the question. So what we did from our studios is we were able to tee up the different questions. And so they would see a question at the top that was highlighted in blue, and then they were able to repeat the question so that the audience could hear it. And so the students that were on there that asked the question were able to get their answers directly. And then we would put another question up, and they would address those questions as well. Do you want to just go ahead and stop that and then plug the mic back in? Okay, perfect. So see, there's challenges to Google Hangouts, even as you know, we claim to be experts using them. But one of the things to remember about Google and the Hangouts is constantly changing technology. It could be one way today, and since they're working on it, it could be different tomorrow. So, but the neat thing about the Hangout is it was a way for them to talk directly to international students that might or might not be interested in their school. If they were interested, we directed them to this form where they could fill it out and they could send it directly to Karen over at Mississippi State. So does anybody have questions about kind of the logistics and how that worked, or do you have questions just in general?
I know that on the page on Google Hangout, that had been watched for 90 times. You know how many people watched it live and watched it later?
Those 290 said it's kind of it's hard to get those stats without really digging in. It's 290 that said they were going to view. We had a picture of how many. There were people that came on and dropped off. There are others that stayed the entire time. Those are some of the figures that are a little harder to get. But what we can show you is some of the ones that watched it after. So as a direct result of the Hangout, there were, as you saw, about 290 students that RSVP'd. They had 70 students that actually went through and filled that form out. So those were, now they've got some students in that enrollment funnel. Now they have to start working. They have to respond to those. They have to gauge the interest. They have to see how many are qualified. A lot of branding through it. And then if you go back to YouTube, can you pull that back up? Here's our YouTube page. So this is the easier number because they tell you 252 views since the live event. So in the last 5 weeks, they've had 252 views of it. So above and beyond that 70, they've probably content that students are going to view and use and find useful. That's what we tried to do with this Hangout. So this is something that we can actually go through, and now they're able to see it. They're even after the event. So it's a long living thing that now becomes a piece of content that we're able to share. Any questions on kind of our case study? So the last piece I want to say is the country list. So here are we do know the countries that attended. So I wrote down the top 10. There were 38 different countries in attendance, or students from countries that actually attended the live event. The U.S. was number 1. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Mississippi State is very known for the graduate level courses. We have a lot of our traffic that is in the U.S., but it is they're international students, so they're looking for that next step. They might just be enrolled. India was number 2. Well, Mississippi State is very well known for their technology. The student that was on that video, she was an Indian student. She was actually an undergrad student. Egypt, then Bangladesh, Malaysia, Turkey, Spain, Colombia, Kyrgyzstan, and Germany. So a pretty interesting mix of countries in attendance. So the last thing I want to talk about is just some of the things that we've kind of learned along the way and what we have done. The first is the technical setup. As you can see, we have a camera here. We have mics. We're both mic'd. We have remote mics. This is a little fancier. We did this specifically for this because we learned that the camera mic, there's a mic on that camera. We use that in Tucson. There was a lot of feedback. You could hear anything anybody did or anything that anybody drilled during the session. So we went to this setup. But if it was just with a school, just any sort of mic would do. This would probably work great if you didn't have a live audience. The other thing I would say is test your Hangouts. Make sure you've restarted your computer. Make sure you don't have anything running in the background. Like as an example, we have Dropbox and it always syncs up. We have the Google Hangout app that you can use as a, to talk back and forth. Just so make sure those things are shut down. I would also say staffing. While you could do it by yourself, it's much easier if you have a support staff in place. Like Apinat is driving, like we got a text that his mic wasn't turned on, those types of things. Somebody that's actually viewing it. And the other thing is this audience is like 40 to 45 seconds behind us. So they won't see any of this for 40 seconds, which is also, so we've had somebody in the office saying, I can't see anything. It's like, well, just wait 40 seconds and you'll be fine. The mics we talked about. The other is camera angle. This camera is a little low right now, but if you're using, especially if you're using a camera right off your laptop, nobody wants to look up your nose, as with those angles as it's on there. So make sure you look at things like that. Lighting is very, very important. If you go on YouTube and look at the one we did in Tucson, I was in front of the screen and I looked like I had a shadow on me. I was more like right here, but the camera can't adjust to those types of things. So make sure you're having somebody tell you if the lighting is good. And we always make sure that we do a test hangout to make sure that the drilling's making me laugh, sorry, to make sure that things work. I would also make sure nobody's hammering or maintenance isn't around as well. Internet is also a key. We're very fortunate that our internet, and we hope, has lasted through this whole thing. Maybe think about times when you're university, if you're using university bandwidth, if there's a ton of people that are on the internet at one particular time, you're at the mercy of whatever internet you have. If the Hangout stops, you're not going to get it back because you've scheduled the event, all those people are on, so it's just going to drop. So make sure that you've got good quality internet. The other thing is you've got to know who your audience is. You've got to think about your time zones. So we had marketed this to some folks and somebody said, I'm in Australia, I'll be asleep, so I'll have to watch it later, which is okay, but you just need to kind of consider those things when you're thinking. You're not going to be able to hit the whole world. Next one, it's actually going to be at 6 p.m. your time, those types of things. So consider those types of things as well. So any questions on any of that? So just to kind of recap, what we use Google Plus for is to really reach our audience in ways that's going to be compelling, in ways that's going to be engaging, as a way to really kind of give them information that they want. That's really what we do, and that's kind of at the core of our mission, has always been to create good quality, relevant content. We do that with written stuff. Could I guess depend on what kind of content you're going to produce. We don't want to produce something on insurance that's 6 months before they're going to travel overseas, and that's the last thing they're going to do before they hop on an airplane. Those types of things, and then be able to deliver that content and have it kind of live on, which is really what we like about Google Plus, and the reason that we have adopted it and made it a good part of our strategy. And just as all the other content we produce, we hope that this is good quality content that we can kind of push out there, and hopefully it's been something you guys have learned from and can take some ideas back and how to use it in your daily duties at the schools. Anybody have any questions at all? Apinat, do you have anything to add?
No, I think that's good.
Well, thank you everybody for joining. The live part of this.